This is Fatima. She was married off at the young age of 15. She has 3 children. She had her first child at 16, her second child at 17, and her third child at 23. Fatima is 25 years old. I got married when I was 15. I was married for 6 years. I was 15 when I was given out, and I have 3 kids presently. It was my father's mother, my grandmother, that married me off to my husband. I did not agree to the marriage. I was forced into the marriage. I was told, even if it meant death, I must get married. Even if my corpse would be taken to my husband's house. It was because of this I agreed to go. I had no choice. I faced a lot of disappointments when I stayed in my husband's house. I can only vouch for a year of peaceful marriage with my husband, as far as I can remember. I only had one dress made for me because I had not given birth. The condition was that if I don't give birth, I would not have another dress. Whenever I would fall ill and visit the hospital, the doctors would always say my sickness was due to hunger. I didn't get to eat food in my husband's house, so I always went back to my father for food to survive, after which he would send me back to my husband's house. My father told me to stay back at my husband's house, even if I was dying. He picks a fight whenever I complain of his bad attitude. When I got pregnant with my present baby during the Muslim Lent period, he beat me up into 6 months of the pregnancy that resulted in health complications. My husband had my money with him, but he refused to give it back to me. Even when other people tried to reason with him, he still refused to return it. He also banned me from communicating with my family when I gave birth to my son. My father was only allowed to visit me once, and that was all. If my mother was around, no one would have stopped my father from visiting me. I had nothing left to survive, so I decided to run to my mother for survival. When I got to Kontagora, where I was supposed to board a bus to Lagos, my uncle caught up with me and forcefully took me back to my husband. My uncle caught up with me and forcefully took me back to my husband. Everyone blamed me for coming back. That night, I was mercilessly beaten by my husband. And while this was happening, a lot of people came and asked him why he was beating me after forcefully bringing me back. He said, if I had the guts, I should try to run away again, and I told him I would. I was 16 when I had my first child. My first child is 8 years old. The second one is 7 years old. The third is 2 years old. There is just 1 year between my first and second child. In between my second and third child, there is a bit of space. My second child was 3 years old when I got pregnant for my third child. I left them back at their father's house in Kebbi State. I decided one night to sell all my belongings. I went to the market, sold them, and kept the money. My son was hungry, so I gave him 10 naira to buy something. On his way, he looked back at me, and I burst into tears. I was so sad I was going to lose my son to his father. He never cared if the children ate or stayed hungry. It was our neighbors who gave me and my children food. I collected my mother's number from one of her cousins back in the village in Kebbi State and called her to inform her that I am on my way to Lagos State. I no longer have any ties of marriage with him or his family. I made them understand that I was no longer coming back. Young girls are married off to elderly men who are way too old and dominating. A lot of girls do not survive the trauma of childbirth because they are too young for that experience. Fatima's mother, who was also married off at 13 years old, has had 3 marriages and has 9 children. I got married during Babangida's regime. I can't remember what year, but I was 13 years old at the time. We were 3 children, but I was the only female. I wanted to go to school, but my father wanted me to get married. I got pregnant, but it was a stillbirth. After that, I gave birth to my daughter, Fatima. I didn't want the marriage, but my father insisted that I got married. My first marriage was arranged by my father. When I was to get married a second time, my father's relatives arranged the marriage because in my culture, it is allowed to marry one's relative, like a cousin, for instance. On that day, I had gone out, and before I got back, my marriage to my cousin had been conducted. After my first 2 children, I married another man when I was 18 years old. In my second marriage, I gave birth to 2 children, Miriam and Aliyu. I never wanted both marriages. I remarried Abdullahi, my current husband, and I bore 6 children for him. We've been living together. I am happy in the marriage, and we never fought because this is the marriage I wanted. My first husband was a responsible man, and he provided for the family. I was well taken care of. I was never happy in the marriage, but I stayed there with him because he took care of my parents. We later had issues because he had 3 wives and I was the 4th. I suffered in my second marriage a lot. Even at that age, I was forced into hawking around the neighborhood. I sold kerosene first and then moved to plastic wares and kitchen utensils. I have 9 children altogether. All my children from my previous and current marriages are with me. Here, I don't have a job, and sometimes it's difficult to feed. I don't work anymore because of my high blood pressure, and my husband is now jobless. I really need help. My first birth was at home with my parents. I was given a concussion to ease the delivery of my baby, but it was terrible and I almost died. We need to be careful the way we marry out our children. Marrying girls off at the age of 10, 15 is very dangerous. When I was in labor, I was rushed to the hospital because I was losing blood. They cut me in the hospital so I could give birth through CS. This happened with my second birth too. I was cut open and stitched for both births. I remember there was another young girl in the hospital. They brought out the twins inside her, dead already, and she too eventually died. I know she died because of child marriage. Because looking at her, I didn't think she was more than 13 years old. Delivery at a tender age comes with a lot of complications.
Every girl should have access to sound education, where she can fend for herself. A lady or a girl must be trained in a way that she will have a voice, she will have a say in whatever she wants to do. If you educate a girl child, you've educated educated the entire world, because it's not about the girl alone. It's about what she will transfer to her family, her children. So by the time, at a very young age, when a girl cannot decide what is right, what is wrong, and you decide to just give her hands off for marriage, what have you done? You've killed that future. So to me, I will advise that parents should desist from such acts. The more you grow old, you become more dependent on your children. Now, by the time you sell out your child's future, a lady, at the end of the day, you grow old, and in most cases, the girl you're giving out at an early age is also battling with her own kids, with the little or meager resources she has available. So what she can't spare anything for you.
I've been in the community for the past 40 years. Child marriage is within the community because it's part of our tradition. Women education doesn't end in the kitchen, as our forefathers used to say. Because Islamically, when you educate a woman, you educate the whole community. Child marriage doesn't have any benefit, because at last she will come back to her parents' home.
In respect of what the children have been doing, there's a lot of kudos to them. But in a nutshell, we try to convince our beloved community, in which I myself personally will be able to achieve from almost 10 homes to achieve. But to be sincere speaking, only 6 of them have been able to move forward. One of them now, she's in Bayero University, among those who were able to convince. And the remaining 5 of them, they're in different high institutions. Quite the remaining 4, they are still planning how to move forward in their education.